Welcome back. We are here with the BridgeSimton Regency Challenge Generation 1 recap, and this will not only recap what happened in the videos that you've already seen, but also up until what is going to be the next beginning of the, social season-ish, because we'll do some getting ready for the social season first, but you know what I mean. So anyway, we are going to be recapping what happened with these people until their children became old enough to now get married themselves. Very exciting. So, as you can see, this is our royal family. Unfortunately, Horatia did end up passing. She died of old age, so it wasn't that bad. But let's recap the royal family. So, Dowager Queen Horatia Barrington, after the death of her husband, she dedicated herself to helping her son, the young king, get ready for marriage. She wanted him to reform his rakish ways, but was determined to make him a beloved king, just like his father was. She was lonely. She started a flirtation with Duke Francis, but they decided to cool it off because she really needed to focus on her son and his future. She was worried when he first took to Selina Beauchamp, but in the end, when he chose Madeleine, she was very happy about that, choosing the daughter of the Grand Duke instead. She got a nursery ready and was ready for her grandchild, which she spoiled rotten before dying of old age. So that was her life. Oh, I loved her so much. And Arthur. So King Arthur Barrington, you can see he got some more facial hair since the last time that you saw him. Arthur became the king as a teen. He loved the ladies and spent a lot of time in the brothel. He had a near-death experience, which was a disaster. He did not want to settle down despite his mother's urgings, though there was an illegitimate child who died as a toddler. He realized the error of his ways once one of his flings tried to out their relationship and get him to take responsibility for her. So he tried to avoid the scandal by executing her. He had some wild teenage years, let me just say. He said some really wild teenage years when she showed up at the castle, and then he decided to take his future marriage more seriously. So he spent time improving his skills so he could join the marriage market, and he was the most eligible bachelor. Among the ladies, the debutantes, were Phoebe, who he didn't really take to, like she was fine. He liked her well enough. Madeleine, who he did not have a good first impression of, but they had great chemistry. And then Selina, who he was just completely smitten with immediately. And they had a whirlwind courtship, surprised everyone. He dumped Phoebe for Selina, but he realized that Selina, who wanted to be an actress, who wasn't noble and didn't want to give up her dreams, which, is totally her, that's a valid choice for her. But he couldn't marry someone who was going to live that kind of life. He needed someone who was going to be all in on being queen of the kingdom. So this made him reevaluate whether he just dove in too quickly and was infatuated and not actually in love. They mutually decided it wasn't meant to be. Unfortunately, Phoebe would not take him back after all of that. Good for her, have some standards. And even though he had a bad first impression of Madeleine, because of their chemistry, everything went really well. They quickly fell in love, and she was a perfect match. They were engaged and then married as young adults. He had his son, but when his son was young, a drought did hit the kingdom. That was one of the drama roles. Instead of making his people suffer, he emptied the royal treasury to help them, but since he had an estate that was making plenty of money, it was not an issue financially for the kingdom. So that's our Arthur. I'll go over Madeleine's youth when we get to her family, but she is, as the queen, she was disappointed that she only had one child, but she was glad it was a son. And she has become the leader of the social scene and already has some ladies picked out for who she wants her son to marry. Their son is Crown Prince Arthur II. He was spoiled. And he loved to go to the beach and go on vacation. He wants to visit the kingdom of Sulani. We'll see if that happens. He wasn't really excited for marriage, but he will do his duty, and he's not too worried about it. So that is him. He actually is a really good mix of his parents. I feel like he has actually inherited a lot of facial features from his grandmother, too. So there is that. But that is our royal family. You can see things actually went pretty well after they got married and had their child. It's not really the same situation for some of these other families. Unfortunately, this is one of them. The Templeton Grand Duchy. let's go back to the beginning here. Grand Duke Francis Templeton. Duke Templeton lost his wife when his children were young. He always wanted his family to be the best and pushed his children to be perfect. He wanted his daughter to marry the king. Congrats, that is something that happened. He had a brief fling with Horatia, who we just saw, but they cooled off their relationship, promising to revisit, but unfortunately, they never did. Francis started an affair with Roger Dowding. He was just having fun, and once he was rewarded for his hard work with a promotion from Duke to Grand Duke, he used his influence to help Roger get a noble title, and, was hoping maybe that Phoebe would marry Eli. So they were doing pretty well. He met Margaret at her husband's funeral, where he became smitten. He knew her as a big star and started courting her and giving up on the queen because he was, the queen was never going to leave her son or her grandchildren to come be in his family. It just wasn't going to happen, and he knew that, and he couldn't marry Roger, and Margaret had a lot of money, so he was like, that's great. So him and Roger and Margaret had a quick romance. I know you can already see things that have happened in this family tree. The only problem was that Margaret's daughter, Selina, had the king smitten. So he wanted his son to court her so that Madeleine could get the king. He married Margaret, made her quit her career to focus on being a Grand Duchess. He really was not prepared for dealing with Margaret. He was delighted when Eli and Selina announced their engagement, and even more so when the king proposed to Madeleine. But unfortunately, Selina, as you saw, was diagnosed with a fatal illness and passed shortly after Madeleine's wedding, leaving Eli without a match. He wanted to see if he could still get Phoebe, but after him and Roger had a falling out over money, then there was too much animosity between those two families. So he protested when his son brought home a commoner from a foreign country, but he was glad to see his line go on, and unfortunately a illness swept through the household, killing him and a few others. So that is what happened with him. With Margaret always loved one person, herself. I can't believe I wrote that about her. She married rich, and she thinks she's the best singer in the kingdom. She loves hosting and entertaining, and she decided to come out of retirement. But when her husband died, she knew she needed to get married again for her daughter's sake. So her and Duke Francis got together, and she was very happy when her daughter was, going to be with Arthur, but then was very upset when Selina decided to reject the king's advances. She became the Grand Duchess and had to quit her job, which made her even angrier because she kind of resented that her daughter was doing what she couldn't by not giving up her dreams to become an actress. Margaret continued to enjoy the attention she received from men, but was horrified when her daughter chose Eli, but she couldn't really say anything because that's also her stepson, so what's she going to say against him? But unfortunately, Selina did die of an illness shortly before she would have been married, and Margaret ruled to become sterile as well. So she dove into her duties as Duchess, but it just wasn't fulfilling enough for her. She wanted to be on the stage, so she divorced Francis so that she could go and be an entertainer again. So that was Margaret. She's probably going to die soon because, all the people in that generation are dying right now. But she did leave Francis to pursue her dreams. Maybe that was a little nod to Selina, that she wanted to fulfill what her daughter couldn't. Then there was Eli. Eli, who is now the Grand Duke. Eli never cared much for social seasons. He liked going to Selva Dorada and finding artifacts. He knew he would have to settle, but he wanted to put his dreams first as well, and he's pretty famous for his discoveries. His father encouraged him to pursue Selina, so he courted her. She was actually very interesting, and she had her own dreams, and they really bonded over that, so he knew that she would make a good wife for him because they could both keep their independent lives. So she wanted to initially marry the king, but she decided that she didn't want to give up her dreams to become queen, so Eli promised that she would not have to do that if they were to get married, but unfortunately, as you know, Selina did pass away, but they were secretly married before she died, and he went to Selva Dorada to kind of distract himself from his grief, and that is where he met Ramona in the jungle. They fell in love, and she had an enthusiasm for adventure, and He realized that even better than a wife who would live independently of him was one that they could live together and have the same passion with. So even though he did love Selena, he really did, but Ramona ended up being a better match for him because they could do the things they loved together instead of living separately. He married her despite some disapproval from his father, but an illness swept through their household, as we talked about, and it changed him. They killed his father and his wife, and he no longer believed in love after losing 2 of the women he loved and promised he would never remarry. So that is what happened to Ramona. She initially lived in Salvadorada, and she was, had a job helping tourists navigate the jungle, but also she explored it herself, and she wanted to learn more about our country's history. That's where she met Eli. They had the same interests, and she was okay with marrying him because she would visit her home country often, and they got to adventure together, and so she didn't have to lose anything that she was already doing. Unfortunately, that illness did take her, so that was really sad. They have one son who will be entering the marriage market. This is Eli II. He didn't really remember his mother or his brother. He only remembered it just being him and his father, who was often absent on work trips. He took up cooking with the butler and totally fell in love with it. He hopes to one day have a big family to share his passion with and do a better job at raising his children than his father did for him. So Eli definitely became kind of distant and, buried his head in his work after losing a lot of his family. So that was tough. Francis unfortunately died as an infant, so that was unrelated to the illness. It was just a really tough life for Eli, losing literally everybody that he loved, so he is very hardened by that. As for Madeleine, her youth, she loves being the center of the social scene. She loved gossiping, and she knew she wanted to become queen. She was totally ready for it, except for cross-stitching, which was hard for her. She was dismayed when none of the eligible bachelors actually liked her, but she was mad that Selena got all the attention, which she bullied her for. While her brother distracted Selena, she planted doubts in the king's head and put herself forth as a candidate, and she was successful, and they were married. So she did great. Selena, poor Selena, had always been spoiled by her father, and she knew she was going to be a great actress and also be the queen. She was Delulu, but she's also right because the king was super interested in her, but she had a first choice. Obviously, it was the king, but she realized that if she became queen, she wasn't going to be able to be an actress. And even though her mother tried to convince her that that was for the best, she didn't want it. She accepted Eli's proposal so that she could continue to pursue her dreams. But again, she passed away. So that's what happened there. Now, also, I know that I'm not going too deep into some of these new Sims, but I'm going to have another video before we start the next generation that's going to be kind of, meet the debutantes and stuff like that. So you are going to get to know all of these Sims a little better before that. So don't worry about really knowing too much about them. So here is the Doubting family. Did I fix this? No, I didn't. How did I know that I wasn't going to fix that? As you can see, Seth is now the Baron of this land. And you remember, Baroness. You remember Kaylin. So that's her as well. Okay, so here's this family. They had some drama. And I also like how all the families are intertwined, though it does make it a little more difficult to kind of explain what is going on in some of this stuff, just because I have to be like her, who was in that other place, and, So anyway, but I'm doing my best here. Roger's father worked hard to get their family to the upper class, and Roger wanted to follow in those footsteps. He pushed them into the aristocracy by getting a baron title, but after a series of bad business decisions, it left them bankrupt. They were trying not to let anybody know. He started an affair with Duke Francis Templeton and used the connections to become a baron and also get a money tree from Francis. And the whole family did fall ill, and he was changed. His traits changed, but he did die of old age. She survived the illness. As for Juliana, she wanted what was best for her children, and to prepare them, she sold her paintings when the family went broke, and she kept hosting events to keep the secrets. Her relationship with her husband suffered, obviously because he was fooling around with other people, but she didn't know that. And but they came back together as a family eventually when they received the title and everything. She was also changed by the illness, but also did die of old age. Seth. Baron Seth. Seth loved being social and wanted to be friends with everyone. That didn't mean he didn't get jealous when others preferred their other friends to him. He wanted to join the army to prove himself and become one of the king's knights. He joined the university to become an officer and get ready for his future. During the social season, he was unsuccessful in finding a wife. The whole family fell ill. He was also changed. Afterwards, he visited his mother's family in the Ottoman Empire and met a family friend, the daughter of a duke, who his family wanted him to marry. He liked her well enough, but at the masquerade ball, he met Kaylin, who was very intriguing, and he decided to court her instead. So, she actually turned out to be of dubious parentage, which made it hard, but he decided to kiss her in front of everyone in order to force the issue and be able to marry her because he was in love, and this was the first time that he had ever felt like this, and his parents got over it when his sister became a princess. So there is Kaylin, who is now our baroness. Kaylin grew up as the daughter of a brothel woman. Sorry, this is a lot of talking and my tongue gets tied. Her life was hard until her mother married a duke. Though society wasn't too kind to her and her mother, she took advantage to live comfortably. She knew that her stepsister was supposed to be with Seth, but when she met him at the masquerade ball, it was love at first sight. She eventually confessed who she was, but he decided it didn't matter, and they kissed in front of everyone and were married. They had 3 children. Unfortunately, the first one died at birth, Eliza. Oh, I wanted her to survive. But they have 2 other kids, neither of whom really look that much like their father, to be completely honest. But they have 2 other kids. Seth the second. Seth is not looking forward to the marriage market. He doesn't like children and doesn't want to deal with his family pushing him to pass on his name and his title, because you can see he only has a sister, and then up here is only a sister. So the title would just go back to the crown if he didn't do anything about it. So that's unfortunate. We'll see how that goes. And then we have Lady Priscilla. Priscilla loves to paint on rainy days, and she is kind of presenting as the perfect woman. She's very put together, she's proper, but she kind of just wants a husband who's going to leave her alone to do her hobbies. Love her for that. Then there was Phoebe. Phoebe wanted nothing more than to find her true love. She made friends with the young ladies and was ready to join the marriage market. She was happy that the title that her father got made it easier for her to find a match, but King Arthur turned her down. Her father discouraged her from pursuing him, so she left the season unmatched. While visiting her mother's family in the Ottoman Empire, she met a mysterious man at the masquerade ball. They became close, and he confessed he was the second prince of the empire. They decided to court, even though her future mother-in-law was not impressed by her and was not interested in her joining the family, but she was eventually talked down by the crown prince and her future husband, so they were allowed to marry, and she has moved now to the Ottoman Empire, where you will see her shortly. So that's the Templeton family. Not Templeton. Oh my gosh. Okay, my brain's not working. This is the Dowding family. The Templeton family was the last one. Whew, I'm having a rough time. All right, here is the Honeyfield family. As you can see, things have changed drastically. Oh, Levi. Oh gosh. All right, you all predicted this. I mean, there was no way that relationship was going to work. So Levi Honeyfield. Levi brought himself into the upper middle class by being an excellent painter. He had an artist's soul and was well known for his work. He married Rebecca to start a family. He started an affair with Bridget Lambert and got her pregnant. His wife was suspicious, and they fought a lot, but, then he got jealous of her, and she got jealous of him, and they were just fighting all the time. He invested with Duke Francis Templeton and made double his money back. When they finally had enough to buy their own estate and join the upper class, the truth about Leah's parentage came out. Little Leah down here. Levi continued to spend more and more time away from the house. I should have put in his thing this, but anyway. He got a commission from a new woman in town, and the two started an affair, and after Leah passed away as a teenager, the relationship with Rebecca kept getting worse, and he eventually left Rebecca for Tabitha, but he did leave the estate in her hands for their daughter. That happened. Oh, Levi. Rebecca was always supported by her husband's art, and she was with him every step of the way. She was a loyal Sim. She couldn't wait to start a family with him. She did get jealous often, though, and they had a very turbulent relationship. After completing the soulmate aspiration, she bought another money tree for them, but then found out that Leah was actually Levi's daughter, and it hurt their relationship that Rebecca was kind of forced to take her into the fold. She thought things would be better after Leah passed away, but they didn't, and the servants even went on strike to protest the conditions of the household. That happened in a drama roll. The household got sick, and her husband's lack of effort finally made her change from romantic to hot-headed. That was during the illness. She rolled to switch her traits. Levi finally left, but kept her the estate, and she hoped to find a good husband for her daughter. If you remember, Cecil was actually murdered by his father's mistress, so that's awkward. And then we have Marina, who has grown up to look just like her mother. She's gorgeous. Marina was too young to really understand her parents' dysfunction, but she knew it was related to Leah and blamed Leah for her problems. But after Leah died and nothing changed, she realized that it wasn't Leah's fault and that her family life just stunk. Her father left around the time she became a teen, and she was determined to find a suitor that she could be in a relationship with that was nothing like her parents' relationship. Leah Lambert. All Leah wanted was a happy family, but she couldn't remember her mother and knew the honeyfields were all she had. She wasn't given jewelry, and what she did have, she had to steal. Klepto. She didn't understand why they all hated and avoided her until she found out the truth about her parentage as a teen. Unfortunately, she passed away shortly after, never finding a family to love her. So sad. Leah did not deserve any of that. Oh my gosh. She could have lived happily and found someone, and instead she couldn't. Very sad. Isabella, okay, so did I already talk about Tabitha? No, I didn't. Okay, so let's go up here and talk about Tabitha, and then we can talk about Tabitha's children. So Tabitha Radcliffe, after her husband died, her in-laws took control of the family winery. You know I'm downloading that horse expansion pack. And pushed Tabitha out. But she was the brains of the business, so she just took her children and left for Windenburg to start a new business. After enlisting Levi to do promotional work for her wine with his art, the two started an affair that culminated in him leaving his wife for her. She didn't change her name. She wears the pants in the relationship. She's confident she can control his eccentricities better than Rebecca could. Basically, she lets him be a total disaster, but she reins him in. So instead of also being a disaster, she's the one in control. Which, is that better? Who knows? Her son was kidnapped by his grandparents. That was a drama roll. But she was able to pay off the kidnappers more than her in-laws could afford because they were already running their business into the ground. So she is a cool businesswoman, and we love her. Her children are Isabella and Ambrose. They're twins. Isabella was only a child when her father passed away and her family moved, but she excelled at logic in school and wasn't really affected by the whole kidnapping situation because they told her a lie about it. And she is interested in finding a husband who can share her love of nature. As for Ambrose, his father's passing hit him hard, and then the kidnapping also hit him hard. He started failing his classes and withdrawing from his family. His mother noticed and had Levi become his painting tutor, where he fell in love with art and, kind of found a new normal for himself. I don't want to say that art, cured all his problems, but it definitely helped him get through the day. His only worry about the marriage market is getting in-laws like his grandparents. So that is what's going on there. There are, there's one more family tree, and then I'll say what I was going to say. So here is the Arslan royal family. Obviously, this side of the family tree we are not really into. There's the Sultan and the Sultana, the Crown Prince, the Crown Princess, and their son. Prince Tosun always knew he would be Sultan. He was spoiled by his parents and grandparents. He became entitled and thought every woman would want to be with him. I mean, that's fair. So anyway, so that is that part of the family. But as for our dear Phoebe, you can see what happened here. Phoebe. Okay, so here's Phoebe's story. We already read it in her young adult, or her other family tree, but after having 5 children with her husband, there was an illness that swept through the family, unfortunately, and she did pass. Very, very sad. She had 5 kids. Only 3 of them are alive, though. That includes Prince Bayram, who loved to learn from a young age and became a proper young man that any woman would want. I mean, he's really just like the whole package. Prince Elvin died as a toddler. Princess Evren, due to an illness as a child, she is actually sterile, but that doesn't change her desire to be a mother. I'm really sad for her. Princess Simmering, why do I keep doing this to myself? Who is the child who turned out to be the most like Phoebe. She's a cheerful romantic. She wants a love story just like her parents. And Prince Esser died at birth. So this was tough. Losing Phoebe was really hard on me. I'm not going to lie. I really thought that they were going to have like the perfect relationship forever and ever. But that's where we're at. So as you can see, we have quite a few Sims that are going to be entering the marriage market in the next part. The only Sim that's not on any of these is Phoebe's cousin's child, who is a daughter. And so that was, if you remember, the woman that Seth was like initially matched with, but then didn't end up being with. So she married their cousin and they had a child. So that is the last person that we're adding in here for this. So really exciting. I'm excited to see all of these Sims and see them all, you know, enter the marriage market and see who ends up with who. And I'm just like super excited for it, to be completely honest with you. I think it'll be great. So that is where we're at. That's a recap of everything that has happened until now. I am really very excited about what's coming up in the future. Like I said, I'm just going to play the romantic aspect of this challenge for now. So I just quickly, you know, short lifespanned my way through the intermediate time. So I hope that, you know, this recap was fun for you guys, and being able to hear what happened to the Sims that we had previously played with, kind of, you know, closing out their stories with each other. So that is really nice. But we will see some of them, obviously, where they are going to be, you know, parents. I am thinking as well that we'll have all of the kids from the Ottoman Empire just join us in our social season, because they're all related. Like, these people are cousins with him, also cousins with the other woman. So, you know, I think that it's just best that we bring them over, because they can't marry each other. Once there are enough people with enough diverse like backgrounds in the Ottoman Empire to marry each other, we could maybe have them have their own social season. But for right now, that's just not possible. So that's where we're at. And that's it. I mean, we are going to be, well, in the next video, we will be having, you know, kind of a meet everybody type of deal. And then after that, we'll be starting with the Barrington royal family once again to get young Arthur ready for his debut, much like his father did before him. Super exciting. I hope that you are ready for this, because it's going to be awesome. And I will catch you in the next one.